Welcome, everybody, to the One Fear Per Year podcast. I am thrilled to have Marjie on with me today. Marjie, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast.
Janice, how are you?
I am doing really good because I know we've had to reschedule a couple times, and so because of me. So I just thank you so much for joining all the way from Israel. I know our time differences are what they are, but I am just honored that you would be here. And I want to hear so much from you because I know you have experience and you've worked in the PR world and all of that. But before we get into that side of things, can you tell me one story in your life where you have had to deal with fear?
How far back do you
Just
want
one.
to go? Back in the late 70s, early 80s, let's call it that, a few decades ago. I was around 12, 13 years old. And I, at the time, was afraid to pick up a telephone and call someone for anything aside from a girlfriend from school to come over and hang out. And one day I got this assignment from school for civics class. And the assignment was to call a local councilman. Okay. I needed to ask him a question, interview him, and do my report. I was petrified. First of all, I wasn't going to call and invite this person over to my house, which is the only reason I would pick up a telephone in the first place, let alone an adult male. So the entire process completely freaked me out. So I said to my mother, I said, Mom, I asked her, I said, can you help me out here? And she said, sure, I'll help you out. So we went to her bedroom and she pulled out, and I don't know if you will remember these, maybe somebody in the audience will, but a phone book, a hard-covered phone book. And we looked up this guy's number, and she said, okay, here's the number, here's the phone. Take care of your business. And I said, Mom, I really, can you please call him for me? And she said, no, Marjie, this is your assignment. And I proceeded to carry on with major drama queen performance. And I was screaming and I was crying and begged my mother, please do this for me. I'm so scared. I don't want to do it. And she said, I'm terribly sorry, Marjie, but this truly is your assignment. She turned around and walked away. And I was in shock. And I just kept screaming and crying. And she completely ignored me. And a couple minutes went by, and I understood that I had to do this, whether I liked it or not. And I sat on her bed, and I literally stared at the phone and the telephone number for another 10 minutes, getting up the courage to do this. Finally, I took a deep breath, because it was either call the guy and do the assignment or fail. I was more afraid of failing. So I call him, he picks up the phone, he's actually nice. First exhale. I told him who I was, what I needed, I asked my question, and then I heard him call his wife. And I thought, oh, good, female energy here. Okay, this is getting easier. And then we had this wonderful three-way conversation for like the next 15 minutes. And when I hung up the phone, I thought, wait a second, that wasn't so bad. Janice, ever since then, no joke, I have been able to call anyone. Doesn't matter their rank, how much experience, lack of experience. I can call anyone on the telephone today to make a request, to have a question, what have you. And years later, when I was interning in a newsroom, I listened to one of the reporters, and whenever this guy would call a source, he would always speak to them like they had known each other for years. And I would often ask him, how long have you known this person? And he would always say, I just met him. I've never spoken to the guy in my life. I've never spoken to the woman in my life. And I thought, wow. So between the experience with my mother and listening to this reporter and how he was best friends instantly, that's how I developed my public relations telephone skills, which have stayed with me for the last 3 decades, 4 decades.
And it obviously has helped you immensely. So props, first of all, to your mom, who really made you do the hard work and have that courage to show up. I know so many times as parents, we want to protect and make it easier, but sometimes that's not what our kids need. And I have to remind myself of that often. Just that to build that courage muscle, you have to expose yourself to the call, to the fearful situations, to build that courage muscle. So props to your mom. And I love this concept of PR and visibility, because for the longest time, I had so many issues and a lot of fearful feelings with putting myself out there, with being visible. What are people going to think? It's too much. It's not enough. It's this or that. And thinking how I'm going to post and all of that. What is your technique or thought around that fear of being seen, fear of putting yourself out there as a PR expert that you are?
Well, public relations is about increasing awareness of the magic that you're making and to share it in such a way that your message is received as it is intended. Now, we're all fearful because we're not exactly sure how our message is going to ultimately be received. That's where the fear comes in. But if we go back to that original story of fear of calling someone on the telephone, the actual story of the telephone, we can even put that to the side. It's how you get over the fear of something that you don't want to do or something where you're afraid of the net result. And just like I had to face the fear when I was 12, 13 years old, that's what we need to do ultimately in business as well. Take a deep breath, jump in. The worst that could have happened was the man said, I don't know, or I don't have time for you, and slammed the phone down in my ear. The worst that can happen is people don't respond or they misunderstand something, and that just gives you an opportunity to clarify.
And don't you think not taking things so personally, not making everything about I messed up or there's something wrong with me? We don't know what other people are going through, what might be happening behind the scenes. So being able to detach from that, like it's not about my worth or who I am as a human being. It's sometimes
Well,
who knows what it is.
Of course, we don't know one another that well. The man on the phone certainly didn't know who I was other than some young kid asking a question. And when you're putting out information and sharing it with the world, people are responding to your information and how you're presenting it, not you personally. They've never sat with you at dinner, for the most part. They don't know your history. They don't know what happened during the course of the day. And guess what? We don't know what happened to them during the course of the day either.
Right.
So we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace, take a deep breath, go for it. Sometimes it's going to be great, slam dunk, touchdown, what have you, the goal. And sometimes, it won't be the net result that you were looking for. But guess what? You get to try again. As long as we're breathing, we're healthy, we're vertical, you just keep trying until you get it right.
I love that. It's just keep getting back up. And so many times when we fall or fail at something, we just stay stuck. And that's a huge thing that I want to do with this podcast and just in my own life, is that resilience of continuing to get back up. Actually, a funny thing popped into my head when you were talking about the call. I remember in my 20s, even maybe even in my 30s, that I would, when I would answer a phone call, depending on who it was, my tone of voice would change. And I wasn't even aware of that until my ex-husband was like, "Why are you talking like that? What is that?" And then I started noticing, oh, it's kind of like this very high, uncomfortable, high pitch. It was just a different tone of voice. And so these little things of how we show up, for me, it was like wearing the masks and trying to people please and be everything to everyone. And not really knowing my own true voice at that point or identity of who I was. But that's just interesting when we're kids, younger, and this whole concept of talking on the phone, just conversing with people. For someone that has a business, needs to get themselves out there, they're the face of their service product. What advice do you have to them if they are stuck in kind of this fear of visibility, fear of being seen?
Practice on a recording and then watch your playback. When we practice, we get used to the concepts, we get used to the feeling, we have a dry run through. That's what rehearsals are about. And when you record it and you watch your playback, which can be torture, don't get me wrong, we all hate our playback. We all, we don't like our voices, we don't like how we look, we don't like this, we don't like that. Stop being so darn critical about yourself. Watch the playback. See what you like. See what you want to change. See what you want to delete. And then try it all over again. So by the time it's showtime, whether it's a telephone call, a presentation, a media interview, a podcast, you're ready for it and you're comfortable because you've been there, seen it, and done it already, and you've prepared for the expected, and you've also prepared for the unexpected. And the unexpected comes up when you're practicing, because certain things will come out that you didn't plan to say, but just kind of rolled off your tongue. And you might go, oh, that maybe not. Or you might think to yourself, wow, that's really good. I should use that.
Love it. And part of that, I feel like, is being comfortable in your own skin, so that if there is something that isn't perfect, it's okay. We're all human, embracing that about ourselves. And you mentioned something about stop being so darn critical. And I feel like that actually lies at the root of a lot of this fear that we have around other people's judgments. It's because we judge ourselves so critically and harshly that we're assuming that everybody else does as well. What do you have to say to that? What do you use in your own life when those negative critical voices pop up to not be so critical, to stop being critical?
I have a couple things I want to share about this question. First of all, as a general rule, whenever I get nervous about anything, I rock out. I turn on my music and I jam out. Or I take a walk and I listen to my music. And I make sure that I'm moving, that I'm breathing, that I'm listening to something fun, and I'm clearing my head. Total sorbet of the brain. And then when that's concluded, then I go back to whatever it is that I wanted to do. The other thing is, at my stage in the game, because I've been in media and public relations for 40 years now, I have a confidence level at this point that if it works, great, because I want to help people. I want to pay it forward. And I hope that it's accepted in the way it's intended. And if it's not, then it's not. You have to, like you said, feel comfortable in your skin. And who knows how much time we have left on this earth. So, y'all, what are you waiting for? Just go for it, you know? With the carpe diem, seize the moment. If you see an opportunity, go for it. Take it without reservation and do good in this world and make your magic. Make your contribution. Push the fear to the side. The world will be a better place for it, and people will thank you.
Yes, such great encouragement. And I wholeheartedly agree that we are each here with some sort of magic, some sort of talent, some sort of uniqueness that if we hide it, and if we're too scared to put it out into the world and then we're gone, nobody else is going to bring that exact spark and magic. So thank you so much for that encouragement. Now, if there in your own mind, no right or wrong answer, is an opposite word of fear for you, what is that? What is that word? What would that be for you?
Freedom.
I love freedom.
Freedom releases us to be able to be our best selves without reservation and to explore and to adventure and to soar with happiness and joy and peace for ourselves and those around us.
Freedom truly is such a gift, and I know that feeling of being imprisoned by fear. And so what you just said, I mean, really hits home. Like, I want us all to take the key out that we have in our back pocket, unlock that prison door, and step out into the life that is meant for you. I love how you show up in the world, Marjie. I love the years of experience that you have and the wisdom. And if there are any parting thoughts, like one thing that you want to tell everybody that you think is one of the most important things to express, to put out into the world, what is that?
I'm going to share my favorite saying with you. It's an old Irish proverb. Okay? Keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. When you have a fear to do something, but you want to achieve a particular goal, and it's difficult to get from point A to point B, focus on the goal and what you can do to achieve it. And don't even bother with all the rest of it, the obstacles, the naysayers. Just go for it step by step with persistence, with resilience, with a sense of humor, and with your ability to make friends. Remember, we were talking about that at the very beginning of our discussion about making friends, like that man on the telephone from the city council, and achieve whatever goal it is, keeping your eye on the donut, whether it's big or it's small, you will get there.
Bam. And everybody go out, walk through fear. I know it's scary, it feels hard, but it is so worth it. And your best life truly is waiting for you right on the other side.